Our story begins in the Jedi Temple shortly after Qui-Gon's death. Grandmaster Yoda has put Yaddle in charge of sending the Jedi Council to Naboo, as he felt something he wanted to meditate on. Not long ago, Yoda felt a pulsing feeling in the Force that was radiating with darkness. It was not a feeling he was very familiar with, but Yoda had a feeling of what it could be. Over the last 50 years or so, Yoda has begun going further and further into the dark side than ever before. As Grandmaster, he could feel the tiniest spark of darkness emerging into the galaxy. At one point, a masked figure cut down an entire squad of Jedi, and then disappeared. Yoda knew the Sith were out there, but this knowledge did not bring him peace. Instead, it brought Yoda anxiety that he could no longer control. For around 800 years of Yoda's life, the light was everything to him. He grew up in an era of peace, and sure, there were pirate gangs or rogue Jedi once in a while, but the rise of the Sith, along with the fact that they simply were hiding, waiting, it had stressed Yoda out beyond what he could handle, at least being in charge of this many Jedi. So, at one point, Yoda decided that the best way to counter the dark side was by learning about it, and as one cannot defeat an enemy that they do not understand. And foolishly, Yoda thought he was strong and balanced enough to never have the darkness truly consume him. And on this day, as Yoda meditated on the dark, pulsing, feeling, he wondered if it was a Force explosion that occurs after a Sith dies. This should have given Yoda some comfort, but only made him more worried. If the Sith were turning on each other, then that meant they were beginning to make their moves. Yoda decided he needed to speak with someone about this, someone who was not fully in the light. So, Yoda set off to find Dooku. He knew that Dooku was on Coruscant in this moment, but when Yoda found him, Dooku was in the Jedi Temple hangar, flying off towards the industrial sector. Yoda had a bad feeling about this, so he followed, and before long, Yoda found himself in a hidden hangar, watching Dooku speak with a hooded man that he called Lord Sidious. The Sith didn't feel Yoda's presence, because Yoda was masking it in the dark side. Yoda overheard Dooku say that he's done everything asked of him, Sifo-Dyas, Kamino, the clones, and Sidious said that he will ask even more if Dooku is to become the true Sith apprentice. And as Yoda heard this, he felt the darkness that he allowed to become a part of him rising up. There was a sadness mixed with anger and hatred for what Dooku was doing. Dooku was Yoda's former apprentice, and Yoda couldn't believe in this betrayal. And finally, after 50 years of learning the dark side and actually controlling it, the inevitable strings holding Yoda back would snap. Sidious and Dooku would feel Yoda before they saw him. His power was beyond anything they'd felt before. The Jedi Master flew right through the speeder that he was hiding behind. An explosion rippled from its center as the green-bladed warrior kicked Dooku square in the chest, swinging his blade across Sidious's face. It cut across Sidious's mouth, nose, and eye as he fell down, hood falling away. And as Yoda looked right at Palpatine, the man who just took over the Republic, it was only another push further into darkness. Yoda now saw that he, as Grand Master, was too weak to see the truth. He let the Sith rise to power, but it was not too late to stop it. Sidious reached out to blast lightning, but Yoda caught it, firing it right back, using his dark power to combine Sidious's lightning with his own, blasting it into him, and Sidious flew back into the wall, scarred and deformed. Dooku slowly stood, igniting his blue saber, telling Yoda he can feel the darkness inside of him, and Dooku told Yoda they don't have to be enemies. Where they once were allies in the light, they can now be allies in the dark. But Yoda just saw a traitor, a man who could not be trusted, and Yoda flew forward. Dooku was too slow. Yoda cut off his hands, landed perfectly, then reached out and lifted both Sidious and Dooku into the air with a force choke. It all happened so quickly, and as their lives faded away and they took their final breaths, Yoda caught a glimpse of the future that he now desired. A future where corrupt politicians can never rise to power again. A future where he, the most powerful being in the galaxy, can use that power to ensure that the Sith of old never rise up again. Sidious and Dooku would die here, and as they fell to the floor, Yoda heard a gasp of shock coming from the doorway. He turned, blade ready, but he just saw Mace Windu. Mace stayed behind after the rest of the council went to the Naboo funeral. He was going to bring Yoda to Naboo personally, but he tracked Yoda here and got here in time to see Yoda finish the job. A voice in Yoda's mind told him to kill Windu, but Yoda closed his eyes, let this go, and breathed out, telling Mace that he's going to present him with a choice. Yoda knew Mace's greatest secret. Despite everything he might say, Mace does have an attachment. He's attached to the Republic. believing it is the only way for galactic peace, believing the Jedi must protect it. So, Yoda showed Mace that Palpatine rose to power as a Sith. The way of the Jedi has gone stale. Something new must be born to protect the Republic. A new order, with Yoda and Mace as the master and the apprentice. Only in the dark can they ensure that the Republic does not fall, and Yoda told Mace there is no one in the galaxy that he trusts more. Mace would think it over. He would see that Palpatine rose to power and turned Dooku, and he would kneel in front of Yoda, proclaiming his loyalty to Yoda's new teachings. Later that evening, on Naboo, Yoda would land his Republic shuttle here for the funeral. He would look to the sky as the Chancellor's shuttle was descending with Mace Windu inside of it secretly, and once hidden by the nighttime shadows, Mace would sneak out of it, and explosives planted by Yoda and Windu would erupt. The Chancellor's shuttle exploded, the remains of his body would be planted inside of it. Panic would immediately ensue within the Republic, and so Windu and Yoda would use this to step into the main chair of the Senate, calling for a galactic emergency. The Federation taking over Naboo, and the newly elected Chancellor being killed on his home world was chaotic, and so the two Jedi would convince the Senate to give them a key role in the investigations and help with searching for the next Chancellor. Yoda would convince the Senate that Valorum should step back in, as he has experience, and the Jedi will be his aides to help wherever needed. Although it was uninspiring, the galaxy would feel safe with a familiar face stepping back into the role of Chancellor. And in the past, Valorum was basically a shell of a Chancellor. He just did whatever his top donors wanted, without any regard to what was best. But now, without anyone knowing, he would be a puppet for the Sith, Yoda, and Windu. The two Jedi turned to the dark side would be manipulating Valorum with mind tricks to have him do whatever they wanted. And Yoda and Windu would use this newfound power to convince the galaxy that there were enemies to the Republic everywhere, whether it be greedy corporations like the Federation, rogue warriors like the mysterious Darth Maul, or pirate gangs that raided weak planets. Valorum would speak to the Senate and say that the galaxy sees the Republic as a weakened government, and that is because the Jedi have become complacent. So, Valorum would call upon the Jedi to become true protectors of the Republic. Senators, citizens, anyone under the Republic banner should not have to live in fear. And of course, this entire doctrine was secretly put into place by Yoda and Windu, using their mind tricks. In the Jedi Council, Masters Operensis and Evan Peel would say that this is wrong. The Jedi are not soldiers meant to be deployed, they are keepers of the peace. There is no war going on, they cannot just be sent out into the galaxy like this. But Yoda and Windu would say that, although they don't love this new order from the Chancellor, it is not permanent. Yoda just said that perhaps it's a good idea to have Jedi spread into the Republic, and ensure that the Sith and anyone else who tries to bring down the Republic are dealt with. And so, the next few years would see the Jedi shifting from being Senate lapdogs to being a surveillance network across the galaxy. Jedi were dispatched to every system, watching, reporting, enforcing their balance. They no longer served the Republic because they were the Republic, and Mace Windu was forging the Jedi into a disciplined army. The evolved Jedi soldiers were wearing armor beneath their robes. They operated with freedom to act as they deemed necessary. He justified it as a measure to prevent war before it began. And yet behind every prevented war was a conflict that Yoda and Windu had quietly engineered. They would plant rumors of rebellion, incite trade disputes, unleash controlled skirmishes, and then they would just send Jedi forces to save the Republic from the very chaos they were creating. It was a scheme taken directly from the Sith playbook, and soon, after defeating Palpatine and Dooku, Yoda dove into how the Sith rose to power. He traced their corruption, and instead of eliminating it, he was using it. Each fallen Jedi was framed as a martyr for keeping this peace, and the more systems that joined the Republic, the greater Yoda's reach became, as the puppet master behind Valorum. In Council, some of the masters would notice changes in Yoda and Windu, but they just decided it had to be stress from this new Jedi way. After all, the thought of Yoda and Windu turning to the dark side was unfathomable. Mace and Yoda were quietly taking over the galaxy, and in the end, they wanted to ensure that the Jedi stood atop of a new empire, as only the Jedi worthy of this power would stand with them. They were being weeded out in these mini-wars. Another reason for creating the Jedi army was so Windu could see who truly had this potential, and one of the Jedi that truly caught his eye was young Anakin Skywalker. By this point, Anakin was 15 years old, and he was rather feisty. Obi-Wan was training him, and whenever Obi-Wan was sent on one of these peacekeeping missions as a soldier, He worked desperately to use his negotiating skills to keep peace, rather than using a lightsaber. But Anakin was different. He preferred to handle literally everything with a lightsaber, and in this reformed order that was becoming a galactic army, Anakin's dark side was embraced rather than hidden away. And one day, while training in the Jedi Temple, Mace Windu watched the boy struggle to take down opponents that were bigger and stronger than him. Mace decided to step in, telling the exhausted, smaller Anakin that not every fight will be won with sheer strength. Mace guided Anakin through a training session, helping teach Anakin the skills of finesse, learning to anticipate an opponent's moves before they happen. Mace told Anakin to let them believe they are winning, and in their overconfidence, he will find the moment, the shatter point, where the fight can actually turn. Mace gestured for Anakin to come at him unarmed, teaching the boy how to pivot off of a stronger opponent's force. And when Anakin finally brought Mace to a knee with a sweep of his leg, Mace smiled warmly. He saw a true future with Anakin. He would be an excellent enforcer for the new Sith when the time finally comes. But as time continued to pass, and the Jedi continued to act more as an army than as peacekeepers, a rift began to form in the Council a few years later. Across the galaxy, new conflicts erupted every week, seemingly out of nowhere, as if some invisible hand were creating them. Whether it was border skirmishes, corporate uprisings, civilian riots, they were all beginning without clear cause. Jedi Knights were being stretched thin across the stars. They were dying. They were dispatched to suppress revolts on planets that didn't even want Republic presence. They came under the guise of peacekeeping, but more often than not, ended up fighting the people they were meant to be helping. Worlds began to whisper of a Jedi Empire, and many council members soon had enough. Plo Koon, Shaak Ti, Kit Fisto, Appa Renses, and Evan Peel would gather in the temple living quarters, deciding it was time that they make a move. They'd seen too much. Plo had watched young Jedi return from the Outer Rim broken, minds hollow from the things they were forced to do in the name of peace. Shaak Ti had recently had a force vision of darkness emerging from the heart of the temple. They all knew the same truth. It was not the Jedi way. Something was truly off with Yoda and Windu. In reality, Yoda and Windu had spent the last couple of years pushing the Jedi as far as they could go. They were waiting to see how far the Jedi would follow them before they break, because when they finally do break, Yoda and Windu can separate the strong from the weak and know who will be loyal to the cause of bringing this Jedi Empire to life. When the next council meeting came, the chamber was tense. One by one, Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, Appa Renses, Shaak Ti, Evan Peel all stood up, telling Yoda and Windu they're being removed from their positions as Grandmaster and Council Master. They spoke of these unnatural wars sprouting on peaceful worlds, Jedi dying in conflicts they don't even understand, planets begging to be left alone, while Yoda's will extended the Republic's reach even further, all under the orders of Valorum, who rarely even appears in public anymore. Shaak Ti added that the Jedi were losing themselves. Appa said the order was descending in a quiet fall to the dark. Mace slowly nodded, looking around the room, asking the rest of the council if they're in agreement with this. Yoda asked everyone who wants him and Windu to step down to please stand up, so they can take a true vote on the matter. Ethkoth stood up, so did Saesee Tiin, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Depa Billaba. Slowly but surely, every council Jedi was standing, making it clear to Yoda and Windu that it's time they step down. Mace and Yoda looked to each other, silently agreeing that they were foolish to think any of these Jedi would see their vision. The future lies in the younger generations, and they will be turned by Force, Jedi like Anakin. So, Yoda and Windu stood up as well, but they did not agree to leave. Instead, their lightsabers would ignite. Ki-Adi-Mundi said so be it, and he moved in, but Yoda was already in the air, twisting mid-spin as his blade sliced through Mundi's long neck. The rest of the council sprung into action. Mace met Saesee Tiin in the center of the room. Windu absorbed each strike, channeling the dark side. He ducked under swings from other Jedi as a burst of energy exploded from his palm. The impact shattered Tin's ribs, sending him crashing lifeless through the window. Obi-Wan and Fisto moved together for Yoda. Yoda swung for them as Fisto caught his first strike, but Yoda unleashed a force blast, tearing through these walls. Kenobi was thrown across the chamber, hitting the far column. Fisto staggered forward, trying to recover, but Yoda extended his claws and drained the life from him with a touch to the chest. Depa Billaba rushed to her former master's side, pleading with Mace to stop this. Mace was in a saber lock with Agen Kolar and Shaak Ti as he met Depa's eyes. It was too late for him, so he pushed the two Jedi away and drove his saber through Depa's back. Across the chamber, Appa spun his tail around, wrapping Yoda in it. Yoda's eyes flared red with anger. He unleashed a burst of energy so strong, that it burst Oppo's tail, as Yoda flew in and cut him down. Evan Peel charged in from behind Yoda, slashing up towards the Grand Master, but Mace intercepted with a quick strike, and Peel's head fell before he even realized that Mace saw him. Shakti and Plo fought side by side, but Windu caught her wrist mid-swing, twisted, and sent a pulse of lightning through Shakti's arm. It blackened instantly, burning from within. She screamed in shock as Mace's blade pierced her heart. Within moments after the fight began, only Kenobi and Plo were remaining. Bodies were scattered. Mace and Yoda moved together, but Obi-Wan flipped over them, and Plo used the Force to throw Yoda out of the window. Mace recovered, engaging both of these Jedi, and from outside of the window, Yoda used a huge blast of lightning, firing it into the pillar holding up the Council Tower. The tower shook, and inside, Windu, Kenobi, and Plo all fell to the floor. The pillar buckled, the entire spire collapsed towards the temple roof. Windu, Plo, and Obi-Wan barely leapt out of the collapsing tower, landing on the burning rooftop of the temple as the tower debris crashed down into the temple. Masters, Knights, and many other Jedi looked up. Obi-Wan and Plo were breathing heavily, telling Mace and Yoda it was over. The Jedi below see them for what they truly are. Mace looked down, and he regrettably told Kenobi that he is mistaken. He underestimates the power of the dark side, and the two Sith Lords would move in. Kenobi fought well, but Yoda cut through his leg as Mace sliced across his chest, and a strong kick sent Obi-Wan tumbling off the edge of the temple, falling forever to the Coruscant ground. Only Plo remained. His mask was cracked, and he told these Sith that they've won today, but in the end the light will emerge. Mace didn't say a word. His blade just stabbed right through Plo's chest, and they immediately dropped down into the temple, where hundreds of Jedi were looking on in fear and confusion. Mace's voice boomed out through the halls, saying that the Council attempted a coup against him and Yoda. Windu continued, saying that the Council was bought out by crime gangs trying to bring down the Jedi. They were all traitors, and Mace said he will be recalling every single Jedi in order to explain the full extent of what has happened here. No one is to leave the temple during this massive investigation, and for hours, smoke still rose from the shattered Council Tower, and over time, the Jedi scattered across worlds were called back to Coruscant. Yoda had used the temple beacon to bring them here, and soon, the temple was full of every single Jedi. They gathered in the Great Hall, and Grandmaster Yoda stood atop a balcony, speaking of the fallen council that let the corruption of the galaxy infect them. But he told the Jedi that the Force has revealed a path forward. None of them knew that something was already in motion. There was an ancient Sith shrine beneath the Jedi Temple. Many thought it was cleansed, but in truth, it was only in hibernation. The Jedi built their temple here, hoping to quell the dark side completely, but still, the dark side bled from it. And now, as the Jedi assembled, Mace Windu had secretly descended beneath the temple, and he now activated the shrine. He reached into his dark power, reaching into the darkness below, and he released it. A red light would beam out of the shrine, a beacon of power flowing through the floors and walls, as Windu and Yoda closed their eyes, harnessing the power. Yoda raised his hands, closed his eyes. His voice echoed through the Force as he told all the Jedi here that the galaxy needs them to be more than protectors. They must become saviors of a broken republic, an empire of Force users. The dark power spraying from the shrine would enter the mind of every Jedi, poisoning them, and they all unknowingly fell under the spell of the Sith, Yoda and Windu. One by one, the Jedi's eyes opened, glowing yellow, and as they looked to Yoda and Windu, they felt peace and certainty. They all knew the truth. An empire of Sith Force users was the only way forward, and the Jedi, all of them having their minds under the influence of Yoda and Windu using this Sith shrine, would take the Senate by force. Windu would no longer be a chancellor in the shadows. He would take the throne for himself, becoming emperor. But not all hope was lost. Windu and Yoda thought every Jedi was in the temple when the shrine was activated. But one Jedi, Anakin Skywalker, had seen the attack in the council. He saw Obi-Wan get kicked off of the temple roof. Kenobi had been cut through his left leg, slashed across his chest, but Anakin had caught him, and Anakin dragged his master away from the temple, confused, bringing him to a medical facility, as the Jedi were all turned to the dark side. Luckily, the power of the shrine was limited to just the Jedi in the temple, and as the Jedi stormed the Senate, Anakin and Obi-Wan were hidden away by Senator Padme Amidala, a senator that Skywalker and Kenobi had been working closely with over the last few months. As while the Jedi were spreading across the galaxy, Padme sought out Kenobi, who seemed to be the most diplomatic of them all. She tried to understand what was truly going on, and now Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme all understood. The leaders of the Jedi Order were evil, and only the two of them had escaped with the light side. And for a full year, the galaxy would suffer under this new Sith Empire. Mace Windu ruled as Emperor from the former Jedi Temple, while the turned Jedi enforced obedience across every world. Through the corrupted Sith shrine buried under the temple, Yoda's will flowed in all of them. Yoda no longer left the shrine below. He was now existing solely as a vessel for the dark side, an overseer who saw and felt everything in the galaxy. He was no longer truly present. He was basically one with the Force, basically giving up his life to be constantly in meditation, letting the dark side spread into him and outward to the Jedi. And Mace Windu led as Sith Emperor, believing a balanced peace had truly finally been achieved. But deep in Coruscant's underworld, Anakin and Obi-Wan were hiding among the poor and the forgotten, along with former senators, forming a network called the Path of Light. They smuggled citizens, senators, and beings hunted by the Sith Empire. But Anakin always knew the truth. The only way out of this nightmare was through it. He knew it was his destiny to fight these Sith, and it must happen soon. Finally, he thought he was ready. Obi-Wan also knew there was no other way. The Sith Empire had to be struck at its heart, and that meant bringing the people of Coruscant to the very doors of the Jedi Temple. Skywalker, Kenobi, and Padme worked in secret for weeks, spreading word through the underground channels of the Resistance. And when the day came, tens of thousands of people filled the temple plaza in a massive protest. When Obi-Wan gave the signal, the crowd surged forward towards the temple doors. Finally, the Sith Knights emerged, pouring from the temple, holding a strong line, and Jaro Tapal's voice boomed out, telling the people if they get any closer, the Knights will not hesitate to act. It was everything Obi-Wan hoped for: mass confusion. The Sith guards all left their posts to contain this uprising, leaving an opening in the back, and through a hidden back entrance of the temple, Anakin slipped through old maintenance tunnels with his focus on one thing: reach the Sith shrine under the temple and destroy it. Only then will the Jedi be free of this mind corruption. Finally, Anakin found the shrine deep underground, and inside of it was Yoda. Yoda sitting behind a red barrier of energy, eyes closed in meditation. Anakin reached for his saber, but as he did, a voice echoed from behind. It was Mace Windu stepping out into the shadows, telling Anakin he's been expecting this. It was a creative plan, but in the end, Windu said he is getting what he wants: a chance to defeat Skywalker. Windu said he deeply regrets that Anakin could not join them in this new army. The shrine can only be truly activated once per year, and Yoda has dedicated his life to keeping it alive in darkness. So, Windu told Anakin he will simply be subdued, kept in prison, and in time, when the shrine can be activated again, Skywalker will finally become Sith, and he will be the one to rip apart the Resistance, starting with Senator Amidala. Anakin's blade lit up the room, and he ran forward with a scream. His strikes were furious, blue saber clashing with Windu again and again as he pressed forward with everything he had. Windu moved through the room under control, red blade cutting around every swing and desperate strike. Their blades were colliding with pure power, and Mace stepped inside Anakin's saber, pinning it to his side, slamming a palm against Anakin's chest, sending him crashing hard into the stone wall. The shock left Anakin breathless. He fell to the floor hard, saber falling beside him. Mace stood over him with pure arrogance. The fight was over. Anakin could barely lift his head. Pain burned through his ribs, his arm numb from the last blow. Everything went dark. But as Anakin's vision blurred, a memory rose inside of his mind. He was back in the Jedi Temple training halls. He was with Mace Windu, as the former Jedi Master's calm voice was guiding him through every motion. Mace taught Anakin a lesson about control, using what an enemy gives you instead of fighting it. He remembered the footwork, the flow, the moment to wait, and the moment to strike. It was so clear, so sharp. Anakin wondered if this was his life flashing before his eyes. But the memory faded, and Anakin was back in the shrine room. Slowly, Anakin stood. Mace sighed, telling Anakin he could have had a real future, and Mace moved to finish it. His saber rose, he swung down, but as he did, Anakin pivoted just as Windu had taught him, turning the older man's strength into his own. Anakin dodged, using his agility to grab Windu's arm, telling the Sith Lord there's only one flaw in this grand plan. He never should have taught him how to destroy him. Anakin twisted to kick Windu, pulled the saber back into his hand, and he was letting the fight flow through him instead of forcing it. Anakin was combining saber combat with moves that were using Windu's physical strength against him. The final duel was a burst of light as Anakin ducked under a swing, bringing Windu down to his knees with a strike. Anakin stood over Windu, telling him the Sith die out today. Windu tried to stand, but Anakin used the Force to throw him backwards into the energy shield protecting Yoda. The shield crackled as Windu hit it, and Mace died in the electricity of it. Anakin then grabbed the blue saber and the red saber and plunged them right into the shield, ripping it apart. Sith Master Yoda opened his eyes as the shield broke for the first time in this year, only to find two lightsaber blades plunged right into his chest. Yoda had been deep in the Force, unaware of what was happening here until it was too late. Both Sith fell dead, and Anakin turned to the shrine, still pulsing, and with a final yell, he plunged both sabers deep into it. The shrine erupted, exploding outward. 1 month later, Anakin Skywalker would slowly wake up in the Jedi Temple medical facility, dazed and confused. And when new Grandmaster Kenobi found him awake, he assured Anakin that everything was alright. Kenobi told Anakin that a month ago, the Sith Knights were about to move in and massacre the civilians when something had changed. The dark trance they were in seemed to be pulled from them, and in that same instant, an explosion rippled out of the temple basement. Anakin remembered all of it. He destroyed the Sith Shrine, keeping a dark grip on the Jedi. Obi-Wan told Anakin that the thousands of Jedi fell to the ground in that moment, and they survived, as the darkness was torn away from them. Everything was blamed on Yoda, and Windu rightfully so, and Kenobi and Padme had gotten the Jedi's help, moving through the temple rubble to find Anakin buried. They found him, and he was in a coma recovering for this past month after destroying the shrine. Anakin laid back in the bed relieved. He remembered the final fight, and the memories that came to him. He knew in that moment that someone or something was guiding him, an unseen hand, helping show him the way. Padme would find Anakin here, holding his hand, and they would be happy that the nightmare was over. In the years to come, Obi-Wan and Anakin would be the heads of a new council, one that rotated often, and the new chambers were in the center of the temple, not above it. Peace was achieved, darkness completely eradicated. Chancellor Amidala would oversee this new era alongside the Jedi, and Anakin would always remember how he and the rest of the Order were fooled by Yoda and Windu, vowing to never let it happen again, as he was the top of the Jedi now. And folks, that is our story for today. I think the last couple videos haven't quite had it's been interesting. The last one killed Anakin in the first, minute, so I've, rotated, and, this was a story I actually was inspired by. Can you guys guess the show? Maybe, there was one scene in particular. Attack on Titan. I don't want to spoil any of that in case anyone hasn't seen it. It's been years, but I literally just started watching it, and it's one of my favorite shows of all time right now, so, yeah. Wanted to put a little bit of something in there. I don't know if you guys got the reference, let me know, but otherwise, fun story. Interesting to put new Sith into it, and I wanted to use the Sith Shrine that the Jedi Temple is for some reason built upon. Hilarious piece of actual lore there, so, yeah, let me know what you thought. Overall, let me know what you guys want to see next. This one looks like it's going to be larger. I haven't edited yet, but as we sit now, it's at 32 minutes, so wonder what it's going to be when I cut down all the parts that I, messed up on. Who cares? None of you guys. So I'm going to get going here. I'm going to edit this video. I'm going to get it out to you guys. Appreciate you. Let me know, what do you want to see next? Let me know what you thought. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, get hype points, whatever those are, click those. Thanks, whatever. I'll see you guys in the next video.